Aerodynamic design, breathtaking acceleration, air-cooled, turbocharged engine, standard built-in DVD player, and of course, tinted windows. Introducing the IMAX Special Edition. Heated leather seats sold separately.
Remember the simple pleasures of being a kid? They're back.
Mom?
Now you can eat like a kid again when all you cared about was taste. Introducing new Lay's Wow Potato Chips. They taste just as good as regular Lay's, and because they're made with Olean, they're half the calories and 100% fat-free.
Honey, I think our couch would fit up here.
New Lay's Wow. Life tastes good again.
Please rise for our anthem.
Gorditas, gorditas, tacos souls are we, whose lives are blessed. To our flatbread, your salsas make us free. Gorditas.
Bless you, Taco Bell.
Let's go eat one now.
You're watching Third Rock from the Sun on NBC.
Learning can be fun and exciting, even if you happen to live in a PC. Just make sure Intel's powerful Pentium 2 processor is inside. It can help bring your educational software to life.
What if everyone was exactly the same? Boring. Embrace the differences in yourself and in others.
This transmission is coming to you.
You got it.
You want to go?
The all-new 1999 Mazda Miata.
We see the earth now.
You got it. It's waiting.
Here's an update on our top story. Police now confirm the Bud-Ice Penguin has been captured. Authorities say it is now safe to serve Bud-Ice. That's right, just bring it all out in the open there. Nothing to worry about, everything's fine. And now, back to the music. Doobie-doobie-doo.
Drink Bud Ice, but beware the penguins.
Bobby, looks like you found a home in Bakersville. Holy Toledo, Bob. You've been traded to the Torpedoes. They love you.
Just because you're always on the go
Shreveport, Bobby. Shreveport. It's a good trade, kid.
doesn't mean you can't take along the KFC chicken you crave. Pick up boneless all-white meat Colonel strips. For a limited time, grab 3 crispy strips, wedges, and a Pepsi for just $2.99. They're ready to go when you are.
2 words, Bob. Kinitsu Carp.
Isn't it time for some really good chicken?
Hey, how's it going? Can't complain.
It's the rugged SUV with a smooth ride.
Hey, can I borrow your eyebrow pencil?
The Montero Sport, one of the sport utility vehicles from Mitsubishi. Now financing as low as 2.9% APR is available on any new 98 Mitsubishi.
Go beyond all you know.
Where are we? No, Major, the question is, when are we?
And all you fear.
Your pay has just begun.
Time to die. To discover a new universe of adventure.
Rock and roll.
Lost in space. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday.
With thousands of outlets, antique shops, boutiques, markets, galleries, museum shops, malls, and no sales tax on clothing, The challenge isn't getting people to shop in Pennsylvania. It's getting them home. For your free visitor's guide, call 1-800-VISIT-PA or browse our website.
Right now at Taco Bell, we got Tribe. Hurry in for your Cruiser Cup with me, Kenny Lawson, right on the side. Keep one for yourself or give one to a friend.
Cut! Kenny, give the kid the cup.
No way! This was mine.
Get to Taco Bell, your Tribe headquarters, for your own Kenny Lofton Cruiser Cup. It's free when you buy a 32-ounce drink or combo meal, like the delicious Gorditas combo. And while you're there, pick up a Tribe bandana for just $1.49.
I love this cup.
Get to Taco Bell.
Could those extra pounds ruin your marriage? Before you answer, you better watch at 10.
Cute. He's single, and women find him irresistible. Too bad his dad isn't as lucky.
Oh, he's so adorable. Oh,
Holding the Baby premieres Sunday at 7:30, 6:30 Central on Fox.
Check, please.
This is one of those new Volvos with all-wheel drive, right?
Yes, it's our newest safety feature, designed to help keep you out of an accident.
So how come you don't put it on all your cars?
All our cars.
Like Subaru does.
Subaru.
Every Subaru we make comes with the safety of all-wheel drive. Every wagon, every coupe, every sedan.
So only one Volvo has all-wheel drive, but they all have cup holders.
Yeah. Subaru, the beauty of all-wheel drive. This is Imagine TV.
Why don't you slip into something a little more comfortable?
all right.
With Mercury moving upward as well.
Answer the question. Okay, she wasn't with me. She was out all night with the Grand Marquis. The Mercury Grand Marquis.
Till next time, imagine yourself in a Mercury.
A special report exposing dirty hot dogs on hard copy.
Your local weather on Channel 3.
Oh, we're having chicken. Oh, we're having chicken.
Try new McCormick flavor medleys and tantalize the taste of any meal.
Oh,
Last year, 40 million faces had to face cold sores, but no face should have to face another one alone. Ask your physician or dentist now for information about prescription Denavir. Only Denavir is antiviral cold sore medicine, smooth-on antiviral Denavir cream, and it penetrates to block the virus that causes cold sores. So Denavir helps healing when applied at the tingle or the blister. Imagine, in 4.5 days, your face wearing a smile instead of a cold sore. In clinical studies, a few people experienced headache and redness. Call 1-888-DENAVIR or ask your physician or dentist for information about Denavir. Help cold sores disappear with antiviral Denavir.
Money advice from the first woman of Wall Street. NBC Nightly News, Monday.
In the news tonight, Dr. Nielsen comes home.
And fast-moving Irene floods the Carolinas. Channel 3 News at 11 is next.
Looking for furniture that will stand up to the whole family? Come to Siemens Furniture. Their peace of mind guarantee guarantees you the highest quality furniture at the lowest possible price. Shop Siemens.
Welcome, everyone.
happy St. Patty's Day to all of you. I hope everybody's having a wonderful time today. I hope everybody's got a good start to their weekend. This is not exactly gonna be a fun stream necessarily, but nevertheless, I believe to be an important one. And a lot of it is just me keeping my word. But that when there were developments in this case, that I would discuss them, and it seems to be what seems to be a conclusion, and this is this is tough, because this case, I mean, there are two sides to the coin on as far as what I'm talking about regarding this case, and me covering it. I went into this case because I saw very disturbing footage of a little girl who desperately needed help. Now, whether she needed the kind of help that she was asking for verbally, in her cries and in her screams, still remains to be established. It's a question of opinion. It's a question of what you choose to believe. And what you choose to believe, I respect. Now, some might dispute that and say he doesn't respect other people's opinions on this case, blah, blah, blah. That's not true. What I don't respect is the blatant misinformation that was shared, and the attacking of a little girl that had taken place. And in these last couple of months, I've seen things on YouTube. In the last few years, I've seen things on YouTube that make me just kind of go, wow. But in the last couple of weeks, I see things, and I'm not going to get into it, because I realize that now there's a certain integration of people who had differences of opinions on this case nowadays, and I'm not trying to start any shit with anybody, but I see things. I see things, and there are people who I find to be, let's just say, the real them tends to show. And this case had an interesting way of bringing that out. Now, my most, I don't want to say worthy, but I want to say the pebble in my shoe in regards to this case is no longer even an issue. This is someone who got canceled off of YouTube by YouTube, and then is making some sad, pathetic, desperate attempt to be significant again on an alternate channel, and it's just not happening. Since then, people who were simps for her have gone on and grown, and now these things regarding this case that they were so loud about, they don't seem to have much of an opinion on at all now, which I find very humorous. But humorous in a tragic way, by the way, because it just goes to show, because again, I hate being right, because the people who opposed my opinions and my efforts were real loud at the time, and And my argument was that those people didn't actually care. They were just involved for the clicks and the views and whatnot. As you can see, I don't have many people here because a lot of people just gave up and stopped following this situation. I don't blame them. Not one person. I don't blame them at all. And since then, my audience has grown for separate reasons, reasons that have nothing to do with this case. So many of the people who follow me aren't even aware. They haven't even watched my past videos. As a matter of fact, some of them I took down. They are back up, by the way. And I just, you know, it was just really interesting to see this whole, you know, everybody was doing the right thing, you know, but nobody stayed consistent, you know. Some people didn't stay consistent for understandable reasons that can't be discussed legally. And other people just lost interest because other creators lost interest because people lost interest because it was about, you know, well, this is going to get me more views if I talk about this. This isn't going to get me as many, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Which I'm glad, because those people are the same people that, oh my goodness, I lost. Give me 1 second, folks. Stand by, technical difficulties. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Had a little bit of a power issue, but we're good now, I think. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. So what this ended up doing, what this case ended up doing, it really brought out the worst in people. For me, it was an eye-opener of an example of the kind of people I want to fuck with and the kind of people that I don't. It was actually real simple. And because this is one of those situations that brought out the worst in bad people and the best in good people. I saw this with my own eyes. I experienced it, and I regret nothing when it comes to discussing it. I stand by every word I've ever said. Some opinions may have fluctuated due to my feelings about it at the time, but I can guarantee you that at every point of discussing this case, I felt very strongly about what I was saying, and I was very honest. And I was going through a time where I wasn't even monetized, and I was extremely passionate about this case. And it's different than any other case that I've ever talked about because is it a crime case? I believe it to be. The question is whether or not a crime actually took place. Now, the case I'm discussing, of course, is the Sophie case, Sophie Long. A few years ago, she was a 9-year-old girl who was on a video taken by her father's wife, and this was it was footage of her. There was an exchange taking place where there was a shared custody arrangement where Michael, her father, and his wife Courtney would have her and her 2 brothers, and as well as their child, and there would be the exchange to give the children back to Kelly, who at the time had a boyfriend named Jake Bellington. Jake Bellington being, in my personal opinion, an utter piece of shit. And there is 911 calls to prove it. There are police records to prove it. There is a police record of his to prove it. And now, is there proof of the allegations that Sophie made against him? No. There is nothing, at least not that we're aware of. And I personally, I was shared everything. Michael and Courtney at the time shared with me everything that they had. I have it all stored on my other computer. And all of this evidence, which was, by the way, collected by Courtney and sent to me directly, mostly by Courtney. And this was stuff that really made you question whether or not there was corruption in the family court system of Collin County in Texas. And I went over a lot of this stuff. I played a lot of stuff. I went over the court documents. I even did, I don't even know how many I did. I want to say like 5 or 6 at least of Kelly Long's deposition in this case. Now, mind you, this was at one point only a family court case. It was a custody fight between a father and a mother. And it got completely out of control. And one might argue that bringing people from the internet and on YouTube, bringing them in on it contributed to this. And yet I feel now whether or not it was necessary or not, I don't know. But do I feel that it was perfectly understandable given the circumstances to actually bring the court of public opinion in on this? Absolutely. Because the court just kept ruling against this person despite any evidence. And this was really, really, really disheartening. And I've gone over these court documents. Other channels have gone over their court documents. And I've seen other channel creators and people who would attend these panels. I've seen them change their minds, more or less, not completely, but more or less, about who's telling the truth and who isn't, who's dishonest, who's actually dangerous and who isn't. And a lot of drama ended up taking place. I fault Michael, for behaving in a manner that would feed the drama trolls everything that they could ever want. I criticize Michael for making certain decisions. Michael being Sophie's dad. I criticize Michael for making certain decisions because those decisions were not made in the best interest of Sophie. At least I did not feel that way. And most people did not feel that way. Even though he stands by these things and blah, blah, blah. Great. But in the court of public opinion that he brought in, he made himself look bad. But none of which had anything to do with whether or not Sophie's claims were true or not. That had nothing to do with anything. At the end of the day, and I still feel this way, by the way, that the person that I was concerned about was Sophie, this 9-year-old girl at the time. I was worried about her, and I was worried about the adults surrounding her being complete and utter assholes. And I stand by the fact that at one point, knowingly to everyone, Michael acted like a complete and utter asshole. He put his own needs in front of everything else for at least a brief moment. And that fucked a lot of things up as far as how people looked at the case. And regardless of that, Sophie's actions in that video were not that of someone who was acting, in my opinion. Children tend to get tired, children tend to lose their will to fight or argue or put on a facade. After a while, this was not taking place. This was an adamant child that the environment that her mother provided for her she was terrified of. For what reason? She claims is because the boyfriend that her mother was living with was interfering with her sexually. And her mother not only stood by and let this happen, but even on some occasions got involved. This was Sophie's allegations at the time. These are not my allegations. These are just what Sophie says. Now, the question is, do I believe Sophie in comparison to everything else that I saw and heard? Absolutely. Absolutely. Sophie's story is more consistent with the facts that we went over and uncovered than anything else. I know and I feel confident in everything that I discussed on this channel because everything that I said and talked about was based on facts that I shared, receipts attached to those facts. Now, I shared opinions that weren't fact, but I gave good reason. Those receipts gave me a basis to form my opinions. The opposing opinions from other channels, other creators, those did not come with facts. Those came with, at best, old emails and text messages between Michael and Kelly about their relationship. Had nothing to do with Sophie, had nothing to do with anything. And I want to say Sophie's 12 now, Margie, but I'm not sure. I don't even know how many years ago it was. It was a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. It's all a big fucking blur, if you want me to be totally honest with you. It was real messy. And so at one point, now here's another thing. I want you to be, I want to be very, very clear that every creator who talked about this case, if you go by their content and you go by their reputations, that should tell you something. Because everyone who stood up on behalf of Kelly Long were people of questionable character as far as their reputations on YouTube, to say the least. One is being sued for $10 million right now for defamation as we speak. Okay? On an unrelated case. But she is being sued for $10 million, had her channel yoked from her. Now, another person who stood up for Kelly Long later after the fact, she goes by the name of Katie Joy. Her channel is Without a Crystal Ball. I think we all know her reputation too. So, if anything, the credibility behind the people who tried to discredit Sophie, this little girl who was merely crying out for help. Anyone who tried to discredit this little girl, call her a brat and a liar. These are all people either directly with bad reputations on YouTube for being defamatory and for being ugly, just in general, for doxing, just doing ugly, the worst nefarious shit that a YouTube creator can do. So all of these people, right, conveniently took the side of Kelly Long, right? And anybody else who didn't, Kelly Long hired obviously an attorney, but she also hired a public relations attorney, which I found really funny and interesting. And this public relations attorney decided to slap a bunch of YouTube creators with cease and desist orders via email. I wiped my ass with mine. I believe Nick Rekieta got one. He wiped his ass with his, and he's an attorney, which only validated me doing it. I was like, because I was like, yo, am I taking a risk here? In my head, I played it real cool, but in my head, I was like, I'm standing by this shit, but I'm a little scared. But I was like, I'm doing this. Fuck it. I don't care. Because I firmly believe in my own convictions. And now, after the fact, time goes by. What ends up happening is Michael Long, in consistency in behavior, what tells us that in the consistency of his behavior, what he ended up doing was taking Sophie, in the consistency and behavior of someone protecting their child, or at least someone who believes that they are. He takes Sophie and he leaves the country. because every motion that he files with the court is denied. Every motion, everything that he tries to do with the court to at least be heard is denied. Ben Dreaman, thank you so much. Thank you for standing by your morals. Thank you for being here and recognizing that. Yeah, so after all of these things, right? So Michael ends up taking Sophia to Mexico. This was against my advice to him. I had him on this channel. I talked to him. He basically stated that this is what he was going to plan, that what he was planning to do if the courts continued to rule against him unfairly, which it appears that they were doing. Whether it was unfair or not is a matter of opinion. I'm not an attorney, but I've heard attorneys say this doesn't make sense when it came to certain rulings that the court made. So a man who at least believed that his back was against the wall with the law, but yet was a father above everything else, in an act of protecting his child, fled to Mexico. And when he's in Mexico, he's apprehended, and he is mistaken, apparently, allegedly, for a drug kingpin, and and that he's mistaken for a drug kingpin, and he's thrown in a Mexican jail, and it takes months for them to even work out his actual identity and why he's there. Now, this being something that takes place along the fact that the court has been making very questionable decisions, I didn't find that to be a coincidence. Rewinding back to the time that Sophie was making her claims, all Michael was doing was pushing for an investigation. Courtney as well. Okay, pushing for an investigation to actually take place. And when this was happening, a recorded phone call was released, and which I went over on this channel. You can go back, and this phone call was between an off-duty sergeant for Collin County Sheriff's Department and another police officer from another county, where he was on location, where Sophie was about to have basically, in layman's terms, a rape exam done. There, it's called a SANE exam, but basically a rape exam being conducted. And this officer was not only trying to intercept it, but he was trying to stop it from happening. And he lied and said that this was, I think, the 11th time that Sophie was being tested for this, and which was a lie. She had never been tested prior to that. And why this person would lie about this, why a police officer off duty would be even making that phone call, much less lie on the phone call and try so hard to stop this evidence from being collected, is beyond suspicious. It's at the very least misconduct, whether it's negligence or whether it's corruption. It's at the very least misconduct. Nothing ever happened. No investigation ever took place for this officer making this phone call. Nothing ever happened. And so, again, fast forward back to when Michael gets so desperate to flee to Mexico, he gets caught. I spoke up against this because I was afraid of there being an altercation where Sophie could be hurt in the process. Even the risk of that I thought was irresponsible. So I spoke up very highly against Michael on this. But Michael went on to end up being in jail for a very long time. I can't even remember how long ago this was, but he's been in jail for at least over a year, well over a year. I know he's been locked up. Well, according to this new update, I think 285 days, something to that effect. And I don't believe that Michael Long belongs in jail. Now, did he make his own bed with a scorned wife? Yeah. No doubt about that. He made his own bed with a scorned wife. Now, is his wife being 286 days now? Thank you, Cherry. And this case, by the way, is also how I met the lovely Cherry that you all love so much in my chat. This is how we ended up becoming a sort of Batman and Robin on YouTube. And yes, Sophie is now back with her mom, I believe. Nobody actually knows where Sophie is. And rightfully so, in a way. I don't think any of us need to know where this child is. None of us need to know where this child is. But the problem is that according to the latest updates here that I'm going to go over, Michael Long, her father, who seemed to only be trying to protect her, now has no right to know where she is until Sophie is over the age of 18 and decides she wants him to know. Now, let me just go over this real quick. I'm not going to show these documents. I'm just going to read it. This was posted yesterday. And Cherry's the one who got this for me. So if Cherry wants, she can post the link to where she got this from. But as of the 16th, Michael Long is sentenced, and it says here, defendant appeared in person and by attorney. Defendant waived the jury and arraignment. Defendant warned and admonished. Defendant pleads guilty and is found guilty on their plea and on the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt of the offense, interference with child custody. Punishment is assessed 2 years confinement, meaning jail time, and a fine of $0. And he gets credited for 253 of those days in back time. And also a lifetime protective order against Sophie, which, if I had to guess, I'd say that means that does not expire when Sophie turns 18. That means that Sophie, once she turns 18, will have the choice to lift. She'll have the option to lift this lifetime protective order. So this is a very, very scary thing. So basically, by pleading not guilty, he basically, or by pleading guilty, I'm sorry. By pleading guilty, he basically relinquishes any parental rights that he has to Sophie. And as well as, now, the fact that that's a stipulation, I find interesting. But they work that in with the protective order. See, this is all about the custody, folks. Make no mistake about that. I had Michael Long on this channel discussing this case, discussing what he planned to do and what he wanted to do, because he had already gotten at one point sentenced to jail time. Before he went to Mexico, the judges already decided to throw him in jail. See, that's another interesting aspect right there. See, some of you are saying, well, he belongs in jail because he took her to Mexico, right? Fair enough. Fair enough. But the problem is that he was sentenced to go to jail before he even went to Mexico. For what? For not showing up to court? I mean, it's family court, right? And he kept filing orders. And he had every reason to believe that if he showed up to court and showed up with Sophie, that Sophie would be taken from him and then put back in his mother's custody. Cat Seahealer, hard to believe that I was in Michael's shoes. I won in the end. When everyone said I had no chance, I almost left the country, but held out as long as I could. Got judge taken off the bench. See, there you go. But I don't know what your situation was, and thank you so much for that. I don't know what your situation was, but there's a likelihood that you had an attorney, and you had a good one. See, Michael ran out of money. At one point, there was a GoFundMe for Michael's legal fees, but that money only lasted so long. Lawyers are expensive, and he had multiple lawyers. He had more than one lawyer. So you're talking about, and I believe he had 4 at one point. And I felt that it made sense to me that was necessary, considering that the amicus attorney, the prosecutor, or not the prosecutor, the amicus attorney, Kelly's attorney, all of these people, the guardian ad litem or whoever, all of these people seem to be working in concert against Michael. And when I say against Michael, I'm saying that they continue to push for jail time. They continue to push for fines, which in family court, usually when a judge sees this, they find this to be suspicious coming from the other party. Because in a family court, the judge's job, a family court's job, their objective is to keep the family at the most peaceful way that they possibly can. I remember when I was going through a custody fight for my son, which I won, by the way. When I was going through this, my attorney, who was a good attorney at least at the time, my attorney, who was a good attorney, was like, you don't want to attack her in any way. We don't want to push for jail time. We don't want to push for fines. What we will do is get the judge to order her to pay child support, which we got. Now, he advised against it because he explained to me the court is designed to keep families together, at least in a functional, whether they stay together or not, but at least in a functional coexisting manner for the sake of the children. That's what family court wants to do. But for some reason, the objective seemed to be always to attack this man, to have him thrown in jail. Every offense that Kelly's attorneys took, for some reason, the judge always seemed to be favoring her. It was very odd. There was nothing to indicate that family court's objective was to keep the members of this family coexisting to some degree for the sake of the children. There was nothing to indicate this. Nothing in any of the court's decisions. To where even some people who were criticizing Michael were still finding this suspicious and being like, that doesn't make sense. This is weird. People who worked for the court system were like, this makes no sense. This is so weird. And seeing as in this sentence here where it says he waived the jury and arraignment, it specifically says that Michael Long waived a jury and an arraignment just to jump to the opportunity to plead guilty and still stay in jail. Right? I find that interesting because he was on this channel and showed motions, and I've seen the motions, and I believe I've showed the motions where he requests a jury trial, and he was denied a jury trial. He's already being thrown in jail. He's already been sentenced to jail. He's avoiding going to court because he knows he's going to get thrown in jail. Sophie's going to be taken away from him and be put in potentially exactly the environment that he's trying to protect her from. So it's very interesting that it says here that he waived his right to a jury trial, even though he's filed multiple motions requesting a jury trial, because he figured, I have enough evidence. I trust the jury of my peers. Not the court, not the judge, nobody. But I do trust a jury of my peers to look at the evidence once I'm given the opportunity to present the evidence I have, that I am just trying to protect my daughter. Simple. Yet he was denied. Yet here says he waived his right to a jury trial. Interesting. Then something else takes place. Recently, just before this gets released, something came to my attention, and a lot of people are talking about it behind the scenes, but nobody's really talking about it. I struggled with whether or not I was going to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it, given this new information. And I'm going to go ahead and read something here. All right. Now, I'm not going to show this, but it's out there and it's around. But this is in the matter of the marriage of Michael Long and Courtney Chalmers. Now, Courtney was Michael's wife during all of this. They have a child together. She is fighting for custody of this child and wanting to take this child completely away from Michael. This issue is not in question at the moment, but it matters. These facts actually matter in the Sophie case, because I want to make it abundantly clear that, as I stated before, most of the information and proof that I got about the court system was sent to me, was collected and sent to me by Courtney herself. Okay? Courtney fighting by her husband's side, doing most of the legwork. Courtney doing most of this. Okay? Apparently something happens. I'm not going to get into the details, but Michael did something very questionable, and pissed her off to a point to where apparently it created irreconcilable differences between the two. Courtney decides out of nowhere that she wants to sue Michael for custody of their child. And then she becomes a simp for Without a Crystal Ball during that one period of time. She makes a missing persons flyer for Sophie when Sophie had not even been determined as missing. Makes accusations of Michael of kidnapping Sophie when technically custody had not been taken from him. He technically still had joint custody and rights over Sophie, so he could not have legally had kidnapped her just yet. And yes, perfectly imperfect. Just to be clear, this is an affidavit from KC. So in other words, these are her claims, her words on why she should get what she wants. Not necessarily truth or facts. Exactly. And I will tell you right now that her credibility is fucked. I'm going to say that one more time. And I want Courtney to hear me say this. Your credibility, Courtney Chalmers, is absolutely fucked, because I had conversations with you. Private conversations with you, with Michael present next to you, while you were stating all these facts. You were the one, actually, Courtney, that conducted most of the recordings of Sophie making the claims that she made. So I am going to say again, as I've stated before, Courtney, if anyone coached Sophie to say any of the things that she said and make any of the accusations she made against Kelly or Jake Bellington, if Sophie was coached, you were the one who fucking coached her. I find that to be the case. That is my opinion. Simple. Because you were the one holding a video camera. You were the one reporting to Michael saying this sort of thing happened and this sort of thing happened. Because when I spoke to Michael, Michael would say things like, well, Courtney told me that one of the kids went up to her and said this, 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 and this. So now all of a sudden, you make this claim, which I find very interesting. After all of that, and after doing your damnedest to convince us all that Michael is a victim here, you do this. Before me, the undersigned authority on this day personally appeared Courtney Chalmers, swore or affirmed to tell truth, and stated as follows. I am of sound mind and capable of making this statement. I have personal knowledge of the facts written in this statement. I understand that if I lie in this statement, I may be held criminally responsible. Keep that in mind. This statement is true. I am asking the court to grant me a protection order for my son against his father, Michael J. Long. I ask that it remain in effect until his 18th birthday. However, if the court sees fit, I would really plea that they allow it to be a lifetime order. A lifetime protective order is what the district attorney's office in Collin County, Texas, is currently seeking for my son's half-sister, Sophie, although Michael is fighting to have this thrown out. I want no contact in person, at home, at school, daycare, by phone, by mail, or through third parties. Michael J. Long is currently being held in Collin County Jail for interference with child custody and the aggravated kidnapping of my son's sister, Sophie A. Long. She was arrested in Mexico City with Sophie, he was arrested in Mexico City with Sophie December 11th, 2021 by the United States Marshals and federal officers of Mexico after being on the run with Sophie for 6 months. In a series of phone calls with Christine Skipper, a prosecutor for the Collin County District Attorney's Office that took place on March 6th and March 7th, I was made aware that, one second here, folks, that United States Marshals are not turning over the paperwork for Michael's arrest in Mexico, even though it has been alleged that dope and guns were found in the car with Sophie. Because of this, Michael will be released in 18 months from the date of March 17th, 2023, unless Sophie becomes strong enough mentally or emotionally to testify against him in court. I fear he will kidnap my son and disappear into Mexico once more upon his release. I'm terrified because, according to Christine Skipper, Sophie has confessed that Michael raped her in Mexico and allowed the man in the apartment next to theirs in Mexico City to rape her as well. My son's father is a pedophile, And in the case against him for the sexual assault of Sophie, who was only 11 years old at the time, may take years to resolve. This leaves all the children at his mercy until they bring him to justice for his horrific crimes. I need to take a break for a second from that. Now, those of you who followed the case with me at the time of this taking place, when all of this was in the heat of everything, right? When Sophie had made her allegations against Jake Bellington and against Kelly, her mother. Okay. Do we not find it odd that the same exact things, because Sophie accused Jake of not only raping her, but she also accused Jake of allowing people in a hotel room to take turns with her at one point. So basically, in not so many words, Courtney is alleging exactly what Sophie alleged about Jake, just in a different time frame. Now, if we were talking about the same person being accused on two different occasions, I would say that's pretty believable, considering, or, depending on the circumstances, I'd say it's pretty believable. But the same circumstances taking place with two different suspects, with two different people who with two different men being accused, it doesn't add up. The probability of that is astronomical. Yet, now here's the thing. Do I believe that Sophie's claims against Jake and Kelly are true? I don't believe her to be a liar. So, based on that, and based on the fact that I've never seen a child more terrified than the environment provided to her by her own mother, then yes, I found it to be believable. I found her allegations to be believable. Absolutely. Because whether or not this stuff took place under Kelly's care, whether or not this stuff happened, for some reason, that child was genuinely terrified of the environment that her own mother provided for her. That tells me that something is horribly wrong in that environment. Now, whether it's in detail the same things that she said happened, I don't know. I have no idea. I wasn't there. I don't have actual proof of it. But what I did see was a child absolutely terrified of the environment that her own mother provides her with. So, now Courtney is stating that Sophie, through a prosecutor, that Sophie is making these same claims against Michael. I'm going to go ahead and call bullshit on that, because I personally have seen the interaction between Sophie and Michael. Very briefly, but I was on a FaceTime with Michael, and I could hear Sophie laughing in the background, having a good time with her brothers. I could hear Sophie enjoying the time that she was spending with her family, constantly coming up to her dad and asking questions, and him saying, 1 second, I'm on the phone, or answering her questions, whatever, or putting me on hold to meet her needs, whatever they were. Now, I never actually saw her with my own eyes on the FaceTime, but I could hear her. Okay? Now, I did not see a child who was afraid of the environment she was in. I didn't see a child consistent with what experts would say is the behavior of a child who's being abused. I didn't see anything of that nature. Like I said, I did see a child who was terrified of the environment that her mother provided for her. So I find these allegations now, all of a sudden, these claims by Courtney, very, very interesting. Now, out of all people who should find these claims unbelievable, it would be Courtney. Because again, Courtney was holding the camera when Sophie was making all of these allegations against Kelly and against Jake. Courtney was holding the camera. But for some reason, she doesn't find Sophie's claims against her father to be suspicious. She thinks this all of a sudden happened. I mean, there's video footage. There's all kinds of evidence dictating that she was perfectly fine having her own child around Michael. To claim he is a pedophile, quote unquote, in this affidavit is coming from her. It doesn't add up. It just simply doesn't add up. So by default, this makes Courtney Chalmers a fucking liar. Now, I'm going to go on here. Hold on. It goes on to say the Collin County District Attorney's Office informed me that Michael had gone as far as to create a false identity for Sophie that included a fake passport and birth certificate in order to further his efforts to make her disappear. I don't doubt that. Michael is a physically and mentally abusive child predator. He is, by Christine Skipper's own words in a recorded phone call, a quote-unquote dangerous man. I was also warned that we all need to, quote-unquote, have a safety plan in place because Michael will do, quote-unquote, do whatever he wants when he is released if they can't prosecute him fully to the kidnapping and rape of Sophie. See, this right here is very interesting, Courtney, because you're saying Michael is physically and mentally abusive child predator. Yet you fought along his side that entire time. You really expect us with eyes and ears to believe that this is how you feel about this man? Because I'll tell you this, if he's a child predator, so the fuck are you. It goes on. Michael has already shown physical aggression towards me, towards my son in the months leading up to me going to stay with my mother in December of 2020. My son, who was only 3 at the time, had been hit by Michael on 3 different occasions between the months of September to December of 2020. Phoenix, 3 at the time, along with his 2 brothers, had also started acting out sexually by grabbing each other inappropriately. I reported all of this to CPS, and I now believe all of the inappropriate behavior was learned from Michael, despite his insistence it was being learned at Phoenix's brother's home in Collin County. I fear that he would be just as willing to rape the boys if he gets his hands on them. Furthermore, Michael is dangerously manipulative, and this is why I need all contact severed. According to Christine Skipper, Sophie has also confessed that Michael orchestrated all false sexual assault accusations Sophie made against her mother and Jake Bellington. Interesting. Seeing as, again, you were the one holding the camera when Sophie was making these allegations. Sophie, who was 9 at the time, she was manipulated into making accusations, said that Michael told her what to do and say. The video Michael forced Sophie to participate in made its way around the world and ruined lives. If I recall real quick, dude, Courtney, you were on every panel that you could be on, in every chat that you could be in, backing up Michael and throwing these accusations around. Quote unquote, ruining lives, as you put it. So don't come with this babe in the woods bullshit that Michael was this manipulative facilitator in all of this, because nobody here's buying it. Hell, even the channels that would oppose me back then aren't buying it. Nobody in the court of public opinion is buying your bullshit so far. Guaranteed. That's interesting. That somebody like you could come up with such lies and such inconsistencies in their behavior that you even get these people who never got along and became sworn enemies based on this case, are now basically all in agreement that you are a manipulative cunt. We all know it. We all see it. You are every bit the manipulative, see you next T-Watt that a person can ever be in a situation like this. Using children to hurt your spouse, because there's no actual evidence that anybody else actually did that until now. Think about that for a second. I want you to just soak that in, okay? There's no evidence of any what do you call it? Parental alienation coming from Michael. There's evidence to think that there could be coming from Kelly, considering the deposition that I went over. But there's no evidence, technically, that anybody parentally alienated Sophie, except you. Because, again, you were the one holding the camera. And you were on every panel that you could possibly be on, along Michael's side, ruining lives, as you put it. You were on every panel you could get in. You were in people's chats. You were text messaging me behind the scenes, sharing information with me about it, with Michael's knowledge, of course. But you were directly involved in all of that. So everybody here, whether we agree or not on Michael, we all agree on you. Because we saw it with our own eyes. Because the fun thing about this YouTube thing is it works as documentation. Internet is forever, Courtney. Sorry. But yeah, you are without a doubt a fucking liar. At the time, along with his two brothers, had also acted sexually, blah, 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 despite, okay. Furthermore, Michael is dangerously manipulative, and this is why I need all contacts severed. According to Christine Skipper, Sophie has also confessed that Michael orchestrated all false sexual assault accusations Sophie made against her mother and Jake Bellington. Yeah, the ones you made, actually. Sophie, who was 9 at the time, she was manipulated into making accusations, said that Michael told her what to do and say. The video Michael forced Sophie to participate in made its way around the world and ruined lives. It gained national attention, and Michael weaponized these false accusations. He weaponized his own children. Michael Long will stop at nothing to isolate his children from their protectors and will destroy anyone who gets in his way. The physical and psychological damage he has done to my son's siblings compelled Collin County courts to remove his parental rights completely in July of 2021. My son, who is only 5, desperately needs protection too. The reason he only kidnapped Sophie is because she was the only one left in his possession at the time. Please protect Phoenix from suffering the same physical and psychological traumas that his sister did at Michael's hands. Wow. Yeah. So, needless to say, those of you who followed this and were there at the time and are here now know beyond a reasonable doubt, okay? Beyond a reasonable doubt that Courtney is a fucking liar. Now, on top of this, now she's claiming that according to this prosecutor, Christine Skipper, that these are Sophie's claims. Fair enough. Okay? Fair enough. But why would there be any reason to think that Sophie wasn't coerced to make these claims then? Right? Because this would, Sophie making the claims. Now, this is what's interesting. See, Courtney is trying to create this situation where she was a victim then and all around a victim. But this sexual abuse was not taking place while Sophie was in my care. This is Courtney thinking here. It didn't happen while Sophie was in my care. There's no way that could have taken place. It didn't start till they went to Mexico, because apparently now Mexico seems to have this magical ability about it to where once you cross over its border, you become a fucking child rapist, an incestuous child rapist. Very interesting. Because all of a sudden, Michael has this inappropriate relationship with Sophie once he crosses the border into Mexico, right? Because that's believable. Yeah. Sophie didn't say that this was happening on your watch, did she? You can't say that in this affidavit because it discredits you, doesn't it? But now, all of a sudden, right, Michael is a pedophile, a predator, right? According to you. And according to this prosecutor now. Now, here's what I think about Michael's case. A, we know that he would never just willingly waive his right to a jury. Because now what they're doing, this is what I'm thinking, not an attorney, folks, but what I believe actually happened here was this prosecutor got Sophie to say these things and uses leverage against Michael to get a guilty plea so that ultimately this wins Kelly the custody agreement that she wants. And there is no agreement. It's just, you're out of the picture. You have no more rights over this child. As a matter of fact, you can't even fucking contact her, not even through a third party. This is what Kelly wanted. This is what she was pushing for. And then she gets it. Why? Because once Michael is caught in Mexico, Sophie is put in the care of the people that he accuses of being corrupt. Right? And then all of a sudden, magically, Sophie decides she's going to turn on her father and say that he raped her while they were in Mexico. Not before, okay? But while they're in Mexico. Because that's believable. Right? But threatening Michael with this and saying, hey, we've already got your daughter to say that you raped her. What? What the fuck? How in the fuck? Oh my God. Yeah. We got her to say that. Now, do you want to put her through the trauma of sitting in an open court and reliving all of this and having to testify in front of a judge and a bunch of strangers about her father? Or you could just plead guilty now and we'll credit you the time that you've already spent in jail, sentence you to 2 years, and all you got to do is walk away. If I'm Michael, I'm taking the deal. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, no, not if I'm a parent who loves my kid and I'm going to do everything I can to fight for them. What can he do? But if I'm a father in Michael's position, I'm taking the plea deal. Why? Because once I take that plea deal and I'm out in the open, I'm exploring my options. I have until the day that I die to fight for my kid. You think that just seals the deal? It's over? Never again? No. This man is going to do everything that he can to fight for his relationship with his kids. I have no doubt in my mind. And the best thing to do is take that plea deal. Otherwise, he's facing up to what, 22 years? On some trumped up ass charges? Fuck that. No, I'm going to take the plea deal. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to hustle like a motherfucker so I can get a lawyer. And I'm going to fight that shit. And I'm going to expose every corrupt motherfucker involved in this case for exactly what they are. That's exactly what I would do if I were Michael. Simple. Well, true, Patty Barnett, I agree with you. Taking Sophie to Mexico was a huge mistake, especially in the eyes of Texans. Agreed. it was a bad look. But at the same time, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I would have done in that situation. But I feel like, in theory, yeah, that was a bad move for sure. Do I believe that he was doing it just to protect his daughter? Absolutely. I do believe that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Gene Williams, nobody gives a fuck what you think in here. So, I mean, you're subject to criticism. You're welcome to your opinions, but you're subject to criticism of those opinions, especially if they're based on jack shit. I there's nothing about this guy that indicated to me that he did not care about his kids. This is a guy that every waking moment was doing whatever he could to file motions and fight for his kids, even when he couldn't afford a lawyer. He did everything that he could. So you're not going to sit here and tell me that this dude didn't care about his kids. I'll compromise with you and say he made some bad choices, but you're not going to sit here and convince me that this is a guy who did not care about his kids. Bullshit. Bullshit. Yeah, no, and everybody's a fucking mental health expert. He's a narcissist. He's a narcissist. Like, bro, is the dude vain? Yeah. For sure. Absolutely. But is he a fucking narcissist? Show me what proves that. Show me what even actually indicates that than the guy actually giving a fuck about what his hair looks like and, what he looks like in a hat. Other than that, give me some evidence. All right. No, I love this shit too. He was obsessed with Sophie. Love, that's not normal. He let those boys go back in such a horrible environment. That's the definition of not caring about your kids. I love that that's brought up. Okay. Look, his boys were already in that environment. He didn't have the option to take them. A. All right. B. They were not under the same threat that Sophie was. Okay. They were not making the same accusations that Sophie was. So there wasn't reason to believe that if Jake was trafficking Sophie, that there was actually a demand for those boys. There's nothing to indicate that. Now, I'm not saying that that environment isn't dangerous for those kids. I'm saying that the same accusations were not made by the boys. But most importantly, he did not have the option to take them when he took Sophie. He didn't have the option. So to sit here and be like, oh, well, he never, didn't care about his kids because he didn't care about the other two and he had an abnormal relationship with Sophie. No, he wasn't obsessed with Sophie. You think that a parent protecting his child is somehow being obsessive? You better believe that I was obsessive when it came to protecting my kid. You better believe I was obsessive about it. If you want to call it that. Cat Healer, when I get my big check, my big sum is going to you and Michael. Why the hell else would anyone hide in Mexico for no reason? I don't know what that means, but thank you. Yeah, Ken's Counseling Couch. Thank you so much, buddy, for being here. Everyone is a narcissist on the internet. Is the trend when people do things they don't like. People with true narcissistic personality disorder is between 0 0 to 6.2% in community samples. Think about that for a second. So when you're so quick to call somebody a fucking narcissist, just remember that statistic. 0 to 6.2% is somebody with actual narcissistic personality disorder. So shut the fuck up with your with your layman diagnoses. See, this is what I'm talking about. See, this is what I'm talking about, folks. This is the kind of thinking, okay, that goes the opposition, which only makes me think that I am on the right side of things here. Because we deal in facts here, folks. We deal in facts. We don't jump to these crazy conclusions. How do you know he's going to break the protection order and end up in prison? Why is he already in prison in your mind? Why is he already out breaking the protection order and in prison in your mind? In this chat. How is that even? Gene Williams, sorry, but you're a fucking idiot. I don't have patience for that kind of stupidity. I just don't. And let me hear Ken's Counseling Couch, who is a licensed therapist, also psychopathy and or sociopathy. The 12-month prevalence rates of antisocial personality disorder using criteria from previous DSMs are between 0.2% and 3.3%, folks. Okay? Yeah, I know. Like, I love, yeah. And you're also subject, if you're going to be a fucking idiot in my chat, you're subject to the comments that come from the people with common sense in my chat. It's just how it's going to happen. You're welcome. Yeah, it's just really funny to me. When he breaks the protection order and he ends up in prison. No, I love this shit. See, this is that frame of thinking. Like, I'm right and you're wrong type of frame of thinking. No. See, I don't even speak your fucking language. Am I going to apologize if he breaks the protection order? No, because you have no way of knowing that. Because is there a chance that he'll break the protection order? Of course. Of course. I'm not saying he won't. I'm just saying you've already jumped to this conclusion with no facts. Nothing to base this conclusion on. It's not even an opinion. It's a conclusion that you're making. When he breaks the protection order. Not if, but when he breaks the protection order. And I look forward to it. Hearts. You're the same type of fucking asshole that spewts nonsense in a comment section and goes, have a nice day, thinking you got the last word. I love that shit. Look, no. And did I say that I believe that he'll break the protection order? Did I say that? See, this is somebody who only hears what they want to hear. And this is the type of person that I had to deal with on a mass level when all of this was in its heights. That's the kind of thinking I had to deal with on a mass level. That stupidity. When did you hear the word probability come out of my mouth? I didn't even say probably. I said, is it possible? Yes, it's possible that he'll break the protection order. Of course it's possible. Anything's possible. It's possible he'll fucking dig a tunnel in the jail with a fucking nail file and fucking join the Rockettes in New York. That's possible. Doesn't mean it's going to fucking happen. Yeah, exactly. Have a blessed day. Fucking idiots. Have a blessed day. I love this shit. Yeah. Of course it's possible. Of course it's possible. Sure, it's possible. Is it fucking likely or even probable? Fuck no. Fuck no. You're the only idiot in my chat who thinks so. Mr. Harlan's Tales of History, famous burglars. Thank you so much. That person's going deaf. Exactly. She's not going deaf. She just has insane person selective hearing. That's what she has. She's, insane person hearing is what she has. So yeah, I just find this whole thing it's bullshit. It's bullshit. This dude does not belong in jail. What should have happened is he should have been allowed to present his evidence. Simple. He should have been allowed to argue his case. And he was never allowed to argue his case. And now his daughter is being weaponized against him. And this is all part of, these criminal charges are now all part of his custody thing. It's all in order to make sure that Kelly gets what she wants out of all of this. And now Courtney is trying to get what she wants out of it. Simple. Simple. Courtney's just pissed because Michael can't keep his dick in his pants. And that's what she's mad about. And it's really pathetic. As far as Kelly goes, I mean, you could go over my videos with the deposition, make up your own mind. Plenty of times where I went over the 911 calls, where she called 911 on Jake. 9 different occasions, if I recall correctly, 9 different 911 calls. 9. Yeah. Again, in the grand scheme of things, all of the evidence point to Sophie telling the truth until now. Until now. So now, how they got Sophie to say these things about her father, I'll never know. I'm sure I don't know, because there's nobody in my chat here. I mean, here, let me do this real quick. Hold on. Let me do this another way. Now, yeah, I'm just simply me personally. I'm not buying it. Gene Williams, you are like officially the Karen of my chat. I love it. You want him around your kids? Oh my God. You want him around your kids? That's a good point. Yeah, Laura P. Exactly. I wouldn't want Gene Williams around my fucking kids. That's for sure. If something happened to one of my kids, I'd want a credible witness. Somebody who just doesn't fucking hear things. I'd want at least that. At least somebody who fucking doesn't just hear things for the fucking sake of fucking hearing them because she wants to hear them. Yes, Space Cowgirl. I mean, yeah, 14% of 250 people say yes. No, and I love that shit too. So much for an open discussion. No, you are making insane assumptions right off the bat, and you're being called out on it. This is as open a discussion as it gets. You're just being criticized for your insane opinions. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm definitely of the opinion here that this is not going to be the end for Michael Long. And the fact is, I mean, at this point, how could there ever be a criminal case against Jake Bellington for Sophie's claims? I mean, they got now some fucking prosecutor got Sophie to say that Michael raped her. So now, in the grand scheme of things, when you're looking over here, you're not seeing what's over here. And what's over here is the grand scheme of things, which is now, if Sophie were to later make these accusations when she's old enough and of sound mind, now doubt has been created, because now she, at her very ripe young age, has told a prosecutor that she wasn't raped by Jake Bellington or her mother or anyone else, and that Michael coerced her to say these things, and that Michael raped her himself. Now, if she comes out later, after she's 18 years old, and tries to say, well, no, the prosecutor made me say that. Well, which was it? Was it the prosecutor that made you lie, or was it your father that made you lie? Which was it? Who made you lie is what's going to happen. Hence, making a jury look at her as a liar. That's what's going to happen. So now, Jake's home free. Home free. Doubt has been created. And I believe this to be the ultimate strategy here by Collin County to discredit Sophie. Well, to to not only get Kelly what she wants, but to discredit Sophie altogether. So that this, if it comes up later and she's old enough to take action in her own way, now there's doubt. So let me get this straight, Gene Williams. Sorry, I'm just having too much fun with you. We will never know the truth on the abuse, but Sophie should be given the benefit of the doubt. Should she now? Now she should be given the benefit of the doubt. Because if I recall, everyone who was screaming out the kind of bullshit that you're screaming out in my chat about Michael being a manipulator and a liar and abusive, all of that shit, well then, I mean, she shouldn't have been given the benefit of the doubt before, but now she should be given the benefit of the doubt now that she's making the accusations against Michael, right? That's your logic here? Because I got to tell you, you're making all of the people that were sounding like you a couple of years ago, you're making them all look great, by the way. Everybody who thought like you, you're making them all look great right now. Yes, Real Pixie. Now she's apparently, according to Courtney's affidavit, she's saying that the prosecutor involved in Michael's case, Michael's criminal case, Christine, fucking, I already forgot her fucking name. Oh, see, I love this shit. Real Lady Justice says Michael deserved to have his parental rights terminated for parental kidnapping. He is not a victim. He is a criminal. Yet the evidence dictates that he was a victim of the courts prior to him actually taking her to Mexico. I mean, every other person who's ever worked for a court, and even attorneys, said so. And I know you claim to be an attorney, Real Lady Justice, but you're not looking too credible now. Let's see. Martina Fox. Sorry, but the common denominator here is Courtney. She could easily have talked a 9-year-old into saying these things and convincing her it happened. Sure. Sure. That's what I'm saying is I don't know if the abuse took place. What I do know is that the environment, based on the 911 calls that we overheard and the police reports, that the environment that Kelly provides for these kids is not a sound, peaceful environment at all. And we saw video evidence of Sophie looking at this environment and being terrified of it. Okay. Now, whether or not the abuse took place or not, I don't know. But if Sophie was coached, the evidence dictates that it would have been Courtney to have coached her and not Michael. That's not to say Michael didn't have a part in it. I'm saying the evidence dictates that it was Courtney, because the evidence is the video footage of Sophie saying these things. And who's holding the camera? And who's talking to Sophie? Courtney. Gene Williams, please shut up. You're just making yourself look and sound stupid. Okay, you're wrong though. Real Lady Justice, who's supposedly an attorney, absolutely should have his rights terminated. In fact, you say his rights were terminated while he was in Mexico. Not true. Not true. Not true. Now on paper, the motion was given. Yes, it was met while he was in Mexico, but it was filed long before he left to Mexico. Jail time was already decided before he even left to Mexico. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Dude, I don't fucking know what's going on. I don't give a shit about Alyssa. Alyssa is completely and totally fucking nothing as far as I'm concerned. I've never given a fuck about Alyssa. I don't give a fuck about Alyssa now. If I'm being 100% honest. Never gave a fuck about that girl ever. I don't give a fuck if she had the title of media manager or whatever the fuck Michael decided to give her. I don't know what the shit was going on with that. But I do know that relationship is the cause, is the factor in which, the very screaming factor in which Courtney went from being Michael's white knight to being his worst enemy in this entire situation on social media and in the courts. Right. And let's see. I mean, if they actually, here's what I find interesting, right? Tom Riddle's making an interesting point here. Now, what I find very interesting is, why not give him the 22 years? Why give him the option for a plea deal? Right? If he's such a criminal and he's a rapist, it shouldn't be easy. It shouldn't be difficult to prove. Right? Wouldn't justice be the most sought after thing here? Right? If he's facing these charges, I mean, obviously they could prove somehow that Michael raped Sophie while he was in Mexico, right? There should be some proof of this, right? I mean, but why isn't justice being served here? Why isn't he being charged with that? Why aren't we asking those questions? Why isn't Michael being charged with this? Why is the ultimate goal here seem to be that Michael just no longer have anything to do with Sophie and sit in jail for a little while to think about it? Right? Sit in jail a little while and think about the fact that you're never going to see this child again. That's basically what the goal here is. I mean, can anybody argue that? Because if he actually raped a child, because here we have Jared Lysick, who's being charged and prosecuted right now for something that happened well over 20 years ago. I mean, think about that. Prosecution feels that they can prove this case. Why wouldn't they take it? Right? Because prosecution feels that they can convict Jared Lysick with no rape kit, no forensics, nothing. Just the word of the victim. Right? So, I mean, obviously they're different states. One's Utah, one's Texas. But nevertheless, why not just prosecute him on these rape charges? Just throw him under the fucking jail. Why not? Doesn't really make sense, does it? Because it really just seems like something that they're using in no pun intended, the long game to basically keep Michael away from Sophie. This is a custody outcome, not a criminal outcome. They're just using the criminal courts to further their needs, to meet their needs, which is to keep Michael away from Sophie. Justice isn't being served here if Sophie was raped by Michael. Because if Michael actually did these things to Sophie, you better fucking believe that I would be saying right here, throw Michael under the fucking jail. If he did these things to Sophie, throw him under the fucking jail. Throw him under the jail, not just for what he did to Sophie, but for making a fool out of everybody here and everybody who supported Sophie and everybody who spoke up, people who risked their livelihoods, people who risked their channels, people who risked their reputations. Yes, I am cold, actually. That's what knocked out my power earlier, is I ran my heater and it blew out my breaker. And so I had to get a jacket and turn on the breaker again. So, yeah, I am cold, actually. So why not seek justice? If he is a child rapist, what matters is making sure that he never does this to another child again. Not just Sophie, people. Not just Sophie, but any fucking child. Any child ever again. It is the courts, it is the system's responsibility. It is the people's responsibility to make sure that this person is no longer a threat to not just his daughter, but any other child. Why only protect Sophie from him? Why is that the overall outcome here? Why is that the goal? Why is that the settlement? Well, you know what? Yeah, he raped Sophie according to her, but you know what? We'll settle for just stay away from her. It's cool. Just stay away from her. Don't have any contact with her. Really? Really? Fuck every other kid, right? Grandmaster said, Sophos, my heater's good. What I need is new electrical wiring in my house. But thank you. Appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, like if everybody's working in the interest of justice here, that dog don't hunt, man. I'm sorry. That dog don't hunt. Why not seek justice and protect society from the likes of someone so dangerous? Because if he is a predator and a pedophile and all of these horrible things, why let him out? Why not keep him in jail for as long as you possibly can? Interesting. So no. So anybody who thinks that justice was served here and believes that Michael raped Sophie, you better get to some thinking. You better get to some thinking. Because again, that dog just don't hunt. Justice was not served here. One way or the other, you cannot escape the fact that in this case, justice was not served. Something nefarious is going on. You cannot deny this. So, anyways, guys, I am going to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a fantastic St. Patrick's Day and the rest of your weekend. I might go live again later tonight, maybe do a late night one. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Feel like it. If I feel like it, I'll do it. I've been working on something in uncharted waters, so to speak, as far as this channel goes, behind the scenes. So that's taking up my time. It normally shouldn't take somebody this much time, but again, uncharted waters. I've never done this before, so I'm trying to do it well and right, and I don't want to rush it. So, but anyway, hopefully, like I said, I'll probably go live maybe again later tonight, if not tomorrow. But regardless, I do promise you guys that we will do this again very soon, my friends.